This video is over circumference and arc length of circles. We're doing these two topics together because they're very closely related and they both have to deal with the circumference of a circle. So for circumference can have two possible equations. So usually we just do 2 pi r if you're given the radius, or if you're given the diameter, you can say diameter times pi. And what you use is just all depending on what you're given, because we know that the diameter is going to equal 2 times the radius, so you can use that. So it's very important when you're doing these problems, use the pi button on your calculator, okay? Do not use 3.14. Even though that's really close to pi, it will make your calculations really off, and when you get into pre-cal and calculus, we don't use 3.14, which you might have done in high school. So we're going to find the circumference of this circle. So say I had a radius. I knew that the radius of this circle was 7. I would just plug it in to figure out what my circumference would be. So I have C equals 2 pi times r, which is 7. So we can go ahead and just multiply our two numbers together. So C equals 14 times pi. And we're going to go to Desmos.com again and put this into the calculator. So I have 14, and the pi symbol is right here. So I see my answer is 43.98. So we have our circumference equals 43.9822. And as always, we're going to round to 2 decimal places. So what I do is I look at the third number. And since this third number is lower than 5, that means that this number will stay the same. So our answer will be 43.98 for our circumference. Now we're going to move on to arc length. Okay, so the formula for arc length, first off, what we have to do is we have to find the circumference of your circle. So for arc length is the circumference, so I need 2 pi r, and I'm multiplying it by the measure of the arc divided by 360 degrees. Let's look at a quick example. So say I had an arc RS. We're not going to really solve this one out, but I just want you to see what this formula means. So RS is an arc, and say that it goes through the center, so it takes up half the circle. If I want to know what this length is, then clearly I can see that that is half of the circumference of the circle. I know that the angle equals 180 degrees because that's half of the degrees of the circle. So if my measure equals 180 over 360, that's half. And that's what we're doing. We're multiplying half by the circumference to give us that number. So you don't really have to memorize this formula. You just have to think the ratio of the arc measure divided by 360 times the circumference. So now we're going to actually do a real example. Say I had points CD on the circle, and CD, the measure of arc CD, is equal to 110 degrees. We want to know what is the length of arc CD. So when we do the arc measure, remember it's always a smaller arc, and we know that that is 110 degrees. I also need to have a radius. So say that my radius was 15. So now I have everything I need to find the arc length of CD. So I plug in 2 times pi, my radius is 15, times the measure of my angle, which is 110, over 360. Now I can clean a few things up. 2 times 15 I know is 30 pi, then multiplied by 110 times 360. If you want, you can simplify this fraction. From here on, it's just however you want to simplify this. I'm just going to multiply these two top numbers, 30 times 110, which will give me 3,300, and then times it by pi over 360. Now this we're going to plug into decimals. So we're going to get our calculator again. So we have 3,300 times pi, and then divided by 360. And CV equals 28.7979. Okay, so we have the arc length equals 28.7979. And again, we're still rounding to 2 decimal places, so we're going to look at this number here. So this number, the third number, is greater than 5. So that means that we round up on the second number. So rounding up, this 9 would make this number into 8, because 1 up from 79 is going to be 80. So our arc length rounded up is going to be 28.8.